Hello, everybody. You are very welcome to Successful Perspectives. Of course, Successful Perspectives is when we deep dive into the topic of leadership with one of our members from our very selective and influential network, Boardroom by EMIR. And for this chat, I am delighted to be joined in this conversation with Subbu Hariharan, the Managing Director for the Middle East and Turkey at Canon. And Subbu, look, it's a wonderful to have you on Successful Perspectives, and thank you for joining me.
Pleasure. Thank you, Frank.
Subbu, look, Canon have been members of Boardroom by EMIR since 2015, quite a long time, and of course, look, Canon is a powerhouse and global leader in the whole ecosystem in imaging. So I've been really looking forward to our conversation to learn more about your leadership styles and principles. So let's start by going back a little in time and thinking about leadership when you were younger. Say when you were starting out on your career. Was there someone you looked up to when you were younger that represented the kind of leader you wanted to be?
Well, thank you for the introduction, and it's a pleasure to be on this chat with you, Frank. Really value the partnership with EMIR, and I think it's been a pleasure to work with you and Trevor over the years that we have been associated with. Good question, reflecting on taking you back in time, but I guess there's no one single leader because there's so many good people that you come across in life. And when you're a child, of course, you look up to the leader of the house, which is your dad. And then as you grow up, I particularly really liked and learned how to be calm, how to be noble, how to be trying to be a better person in life through dad. And I think these are all eventually leading into good leadership qualities. As I grew further, I had a very, very great acquaintance with a professor of mine in university who really trusted and empowered me as a part of the class to lead the group for the activities that we have in university. So that to me, to really appoint somebody who's very fresh in university to be able to really make an impact to what the professor thought was a very important responsibility. I was really learning how empowerment and talent identification can play such an important part in leadership. And as I went through the career, I think we've met very, very influential leaders, many inspiring leaders throughout my career, throughout my workplace, and have had the privilege. So to put it in few words, I think then we're talking about learning from many, and I think the key part is learn what to do, and most importantly, learn what not to do. I think that's the part that I would like to express myself on.
No, I completely agree. I think there's beacons of leaders that we meet across life, and it's a continuous learning journey as we evolve as humans on our own journey and path. And ideally to build a leadership style that links with our values and the vision of who we want to be and where we want to progress. So I'd agree in terms of even to try and relate over time that there have been different leaders throughout my life and continuously engaging with the network and the members like yourself who are leading, as I mentioned at the start, powerhouses in the region. It's very, very inspiring. And with that, well, if I ask you, maybe Subbu, if we just take a deeper dive, what is the one popular belief about being a leader that is actually total nonsense?
Well, one of our very good leaders that I know of personally once told me, saying, and this was at the start of my leadership journey, where he told me, you'll always feel alone at the top.
Yeah.
And you'll be the most judged person ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you will have a lot of advisors, but you will need to take a call. So these are the realities that exist with the leader, which is not really known to the world in general. And I think that to me, if I may say, is the wrong notion of people feeling that leaders are the most influential, powerful, kind of know-it-all kind of people. But I think the reality is leaders need learning more than anybody else, because they need to learn not only what's going on today, but they also need to learn from history. They also need to look at what's the future. So I think it's a good combination of having these thoughts together, and for that we need to have a continuous mindset of learning, which then becomes natural for any leader to perform the role very well. So the impression of people saying the leader knows it all, I think, is possibly something that can be challenged quite well.
That's a really good answer. I think I've heard this quite a lot across from very different senior leaders in the network, is to always be open to learning and to evolving and progressing, that we don't always have all the answers, which is the right approach as well. I think there's a saying recently that success is for our team and failure is for the leader. And to be able to process that and be willing to continuously learn and accept that failure is also very, very important on that journey. So I love exactly what you're saying there. It's for me, it's very, very critical to apply that logic when we're building our leadership style as we evolve in our careers. And do you feel, I know we discussed this just there, but do you feel, I know you said this, that it can be lonely at the top of an organization. Is there anyone that you go to now for advice?
Oh yes, oh yes. Fortunately for me, I've got great colleagues, whether the leadership team that I work with, whether our own colleagues at headquarters or even locally. And I think the biggest learning comes from people, talking to people, engaging with people, interacting with them, not really sitting alone on top, because the role is such that you are alone on top. There are people to give you good advice, good suggestions, but you need to sign off. And for you to do that with facts, I think it's important to know the facts, and the facts come from people, talking to customers, talking to people, and I think that's where the learning lies. So I do engage with people in my own way to make sure that I get the right learnings, I get the right advice. At the same time, I have very experienced colleagues across my network, not only within the industry, not only within the company, but also outside, who are a helping hand anytime. And I think that's where the whole element of networking and learning comes from. But I think, Frank, most importantly, to sum it up, while we get all this information, which is all information, how to process it with the right reflection. And I think that's the key when it comes to really making this work in real life.
I agree. Like, it goes back to as well ensuring that we surround ourselves with people that are aligned for where we want to be and where we want to go. You're use the cliche of your network is very true in the situation. And you mentioned your colleagues there. I always wondered, like, how do you identify like potential leaders within an organization? What for you exhibits, or what behaviors do they exhibit for you as a potential leader?
Well, if you look at the cliche of usually having talent management systems and processes in every organization, which is pretty much existent, I think the key to me personally is based on 3 A's, as I call it. It's all about the right attitude, the person who takes accountability, and most importantly, the person who exhibits anticipation. So attitude, accountability, anticipation, and there are people in abundance. But to get somebody who has these 3 A's right up there, somebody who thinks beyond his or her own role in organizations and willing to contribute, go that extra mile in terms of really putting in thoughts and be ready with that right attitude, to me is a leader in the making. And then it's, of course, our responsibility to make sure that we identify and put them on the track to become potentially successful leaders in the future.
I love it. It's always nuggets that I'm looking at, fortunate enough, Subbu, to hear in these conversations. That is fantastic. Attitude, accountability, and anticipation is an excellent way of looking at it. And I guess it links into my next question for you from some of our chats before. Like, for you, how do you
How
do you find your purpose, and why is this important to you?
Well, that requires a long discussion, I guess. But let me quickly reflect on something. You possibly have heard this in either what I express on some of my blogs or some of the videos that have ever come up. But to me, the reflection of the work life in Canon, over the past 17 years that I've been around, has all been based on four pillars. So any role that I performed in the organization, anything that I did, anything that I achieved, anything that my team achieved, was all based on realities of four pillars. And those four pillars, the most important pillar is people. So anything that you do for your people, by your people, you work with your people, and that's, I think, the most important pillar. The second pillar that you live day in, day out is with customers. The customer is our biggest asset. The third one is the brand that I represent. So wherever I go, whatever I do, in whichever role, I've always made sure that the brand comes first before me. And I also make sure that, I encourage that when you're carrying a brand, you take that with you, and that reflects in everything that you do to reflect your brand. And the fourth important pillar is corporate values. And the corporate values is all about what we do all this for. The financials, to make sure that we are a very compliant organization. We manage our risks well. We are governed well. So all the financials that we work for. So these are the four pillars. If you look at anything that we do or anything I have done that I reflected on, has been based on these four pillars. And when and this really forms the purpose. So why are we working? Why are we doing what we're doing? Is for these four pillars in the center. And then we look at all of us in the organization working around these pillars. And when we work in collaboration, then everybody finds their purpose, which is common, aligned, well thought of. And then, it kind of makes collaboration rather natural, rather than having to really work on collaboration, because all of us are focused on these four pillars. And if you elevate these four pillars and look at the depth, then there's nothing that falls out of these four pillars.
I agree. It's something we do very much so in EMIR in terms of our people and culture and having aligned values. For us, it's about trust, accountability, and high performance. And I reflected myself on my own purpose and my own mission in life, and having a bigger impact on society is one of our goals as a business as well. That it's aligned, and it's very important for me as an individual. Hence why I've been with EMIR many years. Is that my values align very well, much so with the organization, where you then create and foster the right culture, and that links back to purpose. I think working with any organization over the years, anyone working in any organization, your purpose and your values should intertwine with all of the pillars that you mentioned. That for me then helps with success, or our own perceived definition of success, our own values, and our own mission for what we feel our purpose is in our life. I have a feeling you and I, if we got into this, we could have a really deep conversation, because it's something really important to me in EMIR and my personal life. Yeah.
Sorry, I mean, just to add on, what's most important to mention, behind this purpose, is that the organization that I work for has a beautiful philosophy. You must have read about it, but we call it Kyosei. It's a Japanese word, which literally means living and working together for common good. So that's really the philosophy of the organization at a corporate level. And what is beautiful about the whole thing is it's our way of how we can demonstrate really living the Kyosei in real life. So the whole point of having a beautiful corporate philosophy, which is so meaningful, and to be able to live that on a local level, with a due respect to all the culture and the real diversity that we live in, it is very meaningful to make sure that we have this whole Kyosei philosophy embedded in our day-to-day life. And how better can it get when we are able to really define it through these four pillars of what I just mentioned as our purpose.
I couldn't agree more. Like, your answers to all of these things have been fantastic, Sue. There's a lot for me and our listeners to reflect on I guess, on our own leadership journey. So you've given a lot of great food for thought there. But Subbu, look, thank you for your time. That was honestly absolutely amazing. I loved your answers and your insights. Thank you for being on Successful Perspectives. It's been a pleasure having you.
Pleasure. Thank you, Frank, and my regards to Trevor and the rest of the team.